Dick Simnel was 10 years old when, back at the family smithy in Sheepridge, his father simply disappeared in a cloud of furnace parts and flying metal, all enveloped in a pink steam. He was never found in the terrible haze of scorching dampness. But on that very day, young Dick Simnel vowed to whatever was left of his father in that boiling steam that he would make steam his servant. His mother had other ideas. She was a midwife, and as she said to her neighbours, "Babbies are born everywhere. I'll never be without a customer." So, against her son's wishes, Elsie Simnel decided to take him away from what she now considered to be a haunted place. She packed up their belongings, and together they returned to her family home near Stolat, where people didn't inexplicably disappear in a hot pink cloud. Soon after they arrived, something important happened to her boy. One day, while waiting for his mother to return from a difficult delivery, Dick walked into a building that looked interesting, and which turned out to be a library. At first he thought it was full of Ponzi stuff, all kings and poets and lovers and battles. But in one crucial book he found something called mathematics and the world of numbers. And that was why, one day some 10 years later, he pulled together every fibre of his being and said, "Mother, you know last year when I said I were going hiking in the mountains of Uberwald with me mates? Well, it were a kind of lie. Only very small, mind you." Dick blushed. "You see, I found keys to Dad's old shed and, well, I went back to Sheepridge and did some experimenting and—" He looked at his mother anxiously. "I think I know what he were doing wrong." Dick was braced for stiff objections, but he hadn't reckoned on tears. So many tears. And as he tried to console her, he added, "You, Mother, and Uncle Flavius, got me an education. You got me the knowing of the numbers, including the arithmetic and weird stuff dreamed up by the philosophers in Ephebi, where even camels can do logarithms on their toes. Dad didn't know this stuff. He had the right ideas, but he didn't have the technology right." At this point, Dick allowed his mother to talk, and she said, "I know there's no stopping you, Howie Dick. You're just like your stubborn father were, pig-headed. Is that what you've been doing in the barn? Technology?" She looked at him accusingly, then sighed. "I can see I can't tell you what to do, but you tell me, how can your logger reasons stop you going the way of your poor old dad?" She started sobbing again. Dick pulled out of his jacket something that looked like a small wand, which might have been made for a miniature wizard, and said, "This'll keep me safe, Mother. I've the knowing of the sliding rule. I can tell the sine what to do, and the cosine likewise, and work out the tangent at quadratics. Come on, Mother, stop fretting, and come with me now to the barn. You must see her." Mrs. Simnel, reluctant, was dragged by her son to the great open barn he'd kitted out like the workshop back at Sheepridge, hoping against hope that her son had accidentally found himself a girl. Inside the barn, she looked helplessly at a large circle of metal which covered most of the floor. Something metallic whizzed round and round on the metal, sounding like a squirrel in a cage, giving off a smell much like camphor. "Here she is, Mother. Isn't she champion?" Dick said happily. "I call her Iron Girder." "But what is it, son?" He grinned hugely and said, "It's what they call a prototype, Mother. You've got to have a prototype if you're going to be an engineer." His mother smiled wanly, but there was no stopping Dick. The words just tumbled out. "The thing is, Mother, before you attempt out, you've got to have some idea of what it is you want to do. One of the books I found in the library was about being an architect, and in that book, the man who wrote it said before he built his next big house, he always made quite tiny models to get an idea of how it would all work out. He said it sounds fiddly and stuff, but going slowly and being thorough is the only way forward, and so I'm testing her out slowly, seeing what works and what doesn't, and actually I'm quite proud of me, sen. In the beginning I made track wooden, but I reckoned that the engine I wanted would be very heavy, so I chopped up wooden circle for firewood and went back to forge." Mrs. Simnel looked at the little mechanism running round and round on the barn floor and said, in the voice of someone really trying to understand,